Hey everybody, welcome to another draft video here at the Fake Football and also perhaps at 2QBFFB.com. I'm joined by the creator of that site, Sal. And Sal, how you doing, man? Welcome.
I'm doing good, Greg. Thanks for having me on. I think this is going to be pretty fun.
Sal and I have long been proponents of the two quarterback league, and today that's what we're drafting. We're using Fantasy Football Calculator's mock draft lobby to draft the 10-team two quarterback league. Sal took the first pick. We got to choose. I took the eighth pick, just so we have some time to discuss between the selections we're making. With that in mind, Sal, who are you thinking about for number one here? I've got your rankings pulled up from your site. You've got Le'Veon Bell first. Is that who you're going to take?
I guess I can't. There's really no point in not spoiling my pick because I am first overall and nobody can snipe me. So yeah, I am going to go with Le'Veon Bell in this one. Just because I don't mind waiting on the quarterback position when it's only 10 teams because I still think I'll get a decent quarterback either on the round 2 or 3 turn or even later than that.
Would a 12-teamer change your opinion on that? Would you be more likely to take Luck if it was 12 teams?
Yeah, it would give me more pause to consider Andrew Luck there if I'm drafting 101 in a 12 team, just because those two extra starting roster, two extra teams, it does make a difference. I don't think it makes as much of a difference, but I still think there might be a chance that the low end QB1, high end QB2 tier might be drained by the time I am on the clock again. But it all really depends on the league you're in. If you've been in a league for years and you kind of know who is going to draft what type of player, they're going to take quarterback early, you kind of just feel for it. So yeah, but I guess to say long answer short, yes, I would consider Andrew Luck in a 12-team two quarterback league.
Okay, yeah, I don't think you can really go wrong with anyone in the first round. All these guys are ranked highly for a reason. It just depends on how you want to construct your team. Like start with a running back, a quarterback, or a wide receiver. I think I'm least likely to take a wide receiver or Gronkowski in the first round, but I can understand the arguments for those at least.
Yeah, for especially this year, I think it's like Andrew Luck and Aaron Rodgers have separated themselves from the elite QB tier that you kind of expect them to go 101, 102 in any draft. But it's like, do you want to draft a Peyton Manning or Russell Wilson or Drew Brees as like the third quarterback taken in the first round? It kind of gives you pause this year of like, well, I kind of maybe like Tony Romo or Eli Manning later on. So maybe I should wait.
Yeah. Well, I just came on the clock here. You can see the picks here on the screen. 4 running backs, Antonio Brown and the 2 elite quarterbacks we were just talking about. I'm going to take Eddie Lacy here. He seems like a slam dunk for me at number 8. I'm like you. I like to wait on quarterback and 10-teamers. So I'm going to make that pick. I think I'm doing this right. This is my first time using FFC for a mock draft, but processing. Okay, I did it.
Yay! Greg is now an FFC 2 QBer.
Oh man, it was only a matter of time, Sal.
But I think that's a nice pick with Eddie Lacy there is to kind of highlight the difference between a 1 quarterback league and a 2 quarterback league. I'm going to go on the record and say that in a 1 quarterback league, there's probably no way Eddie Lacy would be available at 108.
Oh yeah, no way. In fact, some of the early 2QB mocks I did had some of these guys like Marshawn Lynch and Eddie Lacy sliding toward like even into the early second round. And while that's not common still, it does show you that it all depends on the room that you're drafting in and how people value the quarterbacks more than anything else.
Exactly. Like I said, at 101, you get to. I see you're on the clock right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Dez here. He's
Nice.
my number 1 wide receiver this year, and I feel pretty good about that.
Just think you started Eddie Lacy and Dez Bryant. Like, how often can you do that in a 1 quarterback league?
Yeah, that's the joy of 2QB is you really get to have more elite guys that on the same roster that you might not necessarily get to do in other league types.
Nice. And like I said, to your point of like knowing your draft room, like at the 101, I get to see how 2 full rounds go down by the time I'm on the clock again. And right now, I'm keeping track of which teams have a quarterback, how many quarterbacks do they have, and right now there's only 4 teams with the quarterback, and one of those teams already has 2 quarterbacks. So it's like, okay, I already kind of have a feel of who's going to be quarterback heavy in this league, and maybe I should start thinking about when I should be taking that quarterback. Like with only 4 on the board, with only 4 taken right now, I'm not sure if I am going to go quarterback again, so we'll see what these next three picks are like.
I mean, you're going to get some good value here one way or the other. One of these elite wide receivers is probably going to fall to you.
Yeah, so it's going to be tempting. It's like, do you want like an Odell Beckham or a Calvin Johnson as your wide receiver one, or do you like right now like Ben Roethlisberger is the highest ranked quarterback on the FFC draft board? I'm like, to me, that's kind of an easy decision.
Is he the guy that you would take here if you were going to take a QB? Is he the top of your rankings at quarterback?
I know I really like Tony Romo and Eli Manning, so I'd probably wait to see when I could get them. I wouldn't really want to force myself to take Big Ben at that spot, and and it doesn't even matter because he went right before my pick.
Right. I have Romo ranked higher as well.
Yeah.
I think Roethlisberger, to some extent, you're paying for his best year ever from last season this year, and that always worries me, whether it's a quarterback or any other position.
Right. So like right now, I just took Odell Beckham, so I don't have a quarterback yet. And again, now I'm faced with like the similar decision after I picked Le'Veon Bell. Do I want to take my quarterback now, or do I want to take the risk of waiting? And now three teams already have two quarterbacks, so now I'm only really competing against 5.5 other teams for the quarterback position. And with how deep it is, I'm gonna risk not taking a quarterback right now just because I can't bypass the opportunity to have a solid RB2 in Jeremy Hill, who I think could be an RB1 this year to team up with Bell.
Yeah. It is nice that when you do these drafts here on FFC, it looks like they're giving us actual rankings for 2 QB leagues, whereas if you join a 2 QB league on ESPN or Yahoo or CBS, the rankings you get are still going to default to 1 quarterback rankings.
Yeah, that is a really nice touch.
So you can see here that Eli Manning is, the 5th player down the rankings right now, which would be absurd in, a 1 quarterback league.
Yeah. So I know I'm taking on the risk of there not being an elite QB1 when I'm on the board again in round 4, but I still think the position is deep enough that I'm going to get a decent enough quarterback that I'll probably look into the studs and streaming method, or maybe just take 2 like mid-tier QB2s and go with that.
Yeah, I actually love your start. Jeremy Hill at the turn there seems like a really nice value. I think he's like in terms of draft cost, I'd rather pay that cost than what was paid for DeMarco Murray. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I feel you there. I think Jeremy Hill has like top 5 fantasy running back potential this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is one nice thing. Another nice thing about 2 quarterback leagues is you hear a lot of analysts this year talking about how they don't want the number 1 overall pick because of how much uncertainty there is between those top 4 or 5 running backs.
Yeah.
And with 2 QB, the fact that you introduce so many other quarterbacks into the top 2 rounds of the draft, it gives you the opportunity to still get valuable players at that 2-3 turn, and it definitely turns me back on to an earlier draft slot.
Right, no, exactly. I mean, just looking at Team 7 right in front of you, they started Jamal Charles and Julio Jones, and now they took Tony Romo as their QB1 in the 3rd round, which I think is a pretty decent value pick in a 2-quarterback league.
I would have taken Romo if he got to me here.
Yeah, exactly. So it kind of shows you just like what could happen if you do wait on the position compared to if you do go QB. And for an example, I mean, Teams 2 and Teams 3 both took 2 quarterbacks with their first 2 picks. And no, they have their running backs are LaShawn McCoy and Matt Forte, respectively. I mean, I'm not the biggest McCoy fan this year, but I am high on Matt Forte, and I think that was a really good pick in the 3rd round.
Yeah, I mean, Forte just seems like Mr. Reliable, and their receiving core is so depleted at this point that they're going to have to run the ball with a lot of volume. I mean, I guess that's also the argument for McCoy. I just worry that, Tyrod Taylor might not be able to keep defenses quite as honest as, Jay Cutler and Alshon Jeffrey.
Or he might just run with the ball himself because he didn't. There's nobody open to pass to.
Yep. All right. So now the question for me becomes: do I want to, continue to wait on quarterback like you've done? There are a lot of people here drafting between my next 2 picks that could potentially take quarterbacks, yourself included. So for me, it comes down to: do I want to take Eli, or do I want to, take another running back or a wide receiver? I'm going to gamble. I'm going to take Lamar Miller here in the 4th. I feel like that's a pretty good value. He's going in the 2nd round in a lot of 1 quarterback leagues. To get him in the 4th here feels pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Lamar Miller as an RB2 target this year because you could kind of get him in the mid rounds, but sometimes people are still thinking about his production from last year and just wondering will he actually be the guy in Miami? So it kind of brings his value down the board a bit. And there we go. We see Team 7 just took Tony Romo and Eli Manning. I think that's one of my preferred quarterback duos this year if I'm taking quarterbacks a little early or a little kind of in the mid rounds.
Right. And the fact that you can get them in the third and fourth rounds after you start with guys like Jamal Charles and Julio Jones,
Yeah.
that feels like such a better start to me than the Peyton Manning, Drew Brees start or even the Andrew Luck, Ben Roethlisberger start. Because you're really not dropping off all that much at quarterback production, but you're getting, elite running backs and elite wide receivers in those first 2 rounds.
Exactly. That's always the thing I kind of talk about when it comes to like people ask me if they should take a quarterback in the first round or not. It's all about draft capital. What is it going to cost you now? What is it going to cost you in the long run? Like, yeah, okay, Russell Wilson, that would be awesome to have as your quarterback, and I wouldn't mind having him too, but it's going to probably cost you a first round pick. So would you rather have like a Russell Wilson being your QB1 and let's say, Lamar Miller being your RB1 rather than your RB2? Or would you rather have Jamal Charles, Julio Jones, and then Tony Romo, and then Eli Manning? So it kind of, this board is kind of showing you just like what it's like to wait versus what it's like not to wait.
Yeah. Now in general, when you do wait on quarterback, does that make you more likely to take your third quarterback early?
It all depends who I'm targeting in that specific draft. Because if I'm going with like studs and streaming, and I kind of know which QB2 and which QB3 I want to pair together, it will depend. Like, am I pairing up Sam Bradford and Teddy Bridgewater? If I am, then those two guys I'm going to have to target earlier, just because they're most likely going to go earlier than most drafts. But if I'm targeting, let's say, an Alex Smith and a Jay Cutler, then I can wait a bit because those guys are kind of being taken later in 2 QB drafts this year.
So I understand that, but let's say that those are the first 2 QBs you take. Does that make you more likely to take your third quarterback earlier than like your bench guy essentially?
With it, like I said, not with those 2 specific quarterbacks,
Okay.
because I just think those guys could produce like more than decent. I don't really need to worry too much about benching them during the season. So it all depends on the quality of the 2 quarterbacks I am taking.
Sorry, I kind of interrupted you here. You're on the clock. Can you walk us through your process a little bit here?
Yeah, right now I was going to take DeAndre Hopkins, so now I'm pivoting to Jordan Matthews if I got it in time before I ran out. So yeah, because I like DeAndre Hopkins a lot this year as an RB. 2 who could be, a receiver 2 could be a receiver 1. So he was the guy I was targeting, but I got sniped by number 2. So, and I was trying to figure out who to get next. But I also like Jordan Matthews in that slot.
Yeah, those guys feel pretty similar in value to me this year. I think I have them ranked right next to each other at wide receiver.
Yeah, and it would have probably been Martavis Bryant if it wasn't for the 4-game suspension. I was drafting him a lot this year. So this one, I think the 5th round right now is a good time to take my quarterback one, because I think if I don't take the Philip Rivers right now, he probably wouldn't have been on the draft board when I was on the clock again in round 6 with one team still needed QB2, you and team 5 needing both starting quarterbacks. So I have a feeling he probably would have been taken by the time I was on the clock again.
Yeah, I'm going to be running out some winners here at my quarterback position. This is going to be an interesting draft. I usually don't wait this long to get my QB1. I think in your average draft, I probably would have taken one in the 3rd or 4th round, but I do want to kind of illustrate, like you, what it's like to wait at quarterback and show some different strategies, because they can all work.
Right.
I know that every once in a while, I've been playing in a couple competitive, 2 quarterback home leagues for many years, and every year it's always fun to look at, who won the championship or who finished, with the best regular season record, and see how they started their draft versus the teams that, might have gone a different direction but finished very well also. And
right.
The diversity is great. That's really what makes me keep coming back to this format.
Right. I mean, like, we're in the mid-5th round. I understand there's a chance Tom Brady could miss the first 4 games, but he's the guy that's still on the board right now who could easily be a QB1 if he was playing all 16 games. And he still could be, even if he misses 4 games.
Oh, if he makes it to me, I'm probably taking him.
Yeah. I mean, you only have one more person in front of you, and that guy already has 2 quarterbacks, or that girl. We don't know. It's number 7, so it could be a guy or a girl.
Yeah. I mean, wasn't the never mind. I was going to make some really, really bad joke. And like one that would out me as just a huge nerd, so I'm not going to do it. Let's see. I just kind of comparing to the other positions available. Like, I don't really love any of the running backs who are available here, and with Lacey and Miller already in tow, I don't feel the need to go that route right now. Similarly, a wide receiver, there's a lot of kind of replaceable value to me at this stage of the draft. So I do think there's more value in a quarterback in this slot than anywhere else, especially considering my team's construction at this point.
Exactly, and especially it's Tom Brady, so he has the potential to be in the QB1 tier by the time the season is over, and who always has as good a shot as any other quarterbacks to put up weekly QB1 performances.
Yeah, and I'm really not worried about the suspension because I mean, even if he is suspended, there won't be any bye weeks that I can't account for in that early span. So if I have two other quarterbacks, I'll be covered, and I do plan on drafting at least three, if not four guys. So I don't think that's a huge concern.
Right, and depending on how many bench spots like your actual league has, I have no issue with drafting Jimmy Garoppolo to be a quarterback handcuff for Tom Brady for the first 4 weeks because he'll be more valuable to you than anybody else if you take Tom Brady.
Yep. So it's back to me here, and I'm wondering if I need to take my second quarterback. I mean, it looks like there are three teams here, number 6, number 5, and yourself, without a QB2 yet. I don't really. I mean, if I were to take a guy here, it would be Palmer, and he is the top of the rankings. I don't love that pick, but at the same time, I'm not really sold on any of these other guys. I think I might take Amari Cooper. I'm coming around on Cooper. I think he's going to see a ton of targets in Oakland.
Yeah, he seems to be a name that's kind of been getting some buzz lately. I saw Sigmund Bloom of Football Guys tweeting out about Amari Cooper today, so I'm not sure if that'll bump up his ADP or not. So I just think it's because it's the Oakland passing game. People are just kind of trying to avoid it if possible, but they're kind of seeing like he might be really the only option to catch passes. So there's always value in that volume.
Yeah, I'm not really following my own rankings here. I'm kind of just winging it.
I mean, like the rankings are just there to be a guide. You never have to really be set to them.
Yeah, I think if we were to look at my rankings, we'd probably see Allen Robinson and Devontae Adams ranked a little bit higher than Cooper. But I do like to spread the love when I'm doing all these different drafts and try to highlight different players. And even for the leagues that I'm really drafting, diversify my portfolio to some extent. Like you hear people talk about that with their MFL 10s, but I think there's some value to that in just your yearly leagues as well.
Yeah, especially because if, like, say you're in like 3,000 leagues and you draft Allen Robinson in every single one of them and he goes down, you're kind of screwed in every single one.
Yep.
So it doesn't help if you can, like you said, have some diversification and pivot to other players.